Hi, my name's Bill Mason from Mason & Mason. I'm a real estate attorney in Garden City, New York, and this is Real Estate from an Attorney's Perspective. So what I wanted to talk to you about today was some of the things I thought would be good to think about when you're trying to evaluate a piece of real estate, or at least a commercial piece of real estate, an investment property. So the first thing that I would look at is the location, right? So I think you probably hear that from everyone, but what are the things that I look at when I'm looking at the location? What am I thinking about? So I try to think about or look into what the traffic count is, how many cars are passing by on a daily basis. That goes to the exposure of the property. The same thing with foot counts, right? If you're in a city, is there how many people are passing by the location? These are things that you can easily obtain. I look at employment in the area. Is it a growing population in the area? What's the crime statistics in the area? Is there public transportation? How's the infrastructure, in the area? What in the neighborhood may make it desirable for tenants to move to the area? So like a good example is where my office is. My office building is, we're right by the courthouse, right? So that's a draw for all of attorneys to come in and rent in that area. And we also have a lot of major hospitals by where our office is. And you see a lot of medical moving there to be close to the hospital. So those are the things that I would think about when it comes to location. That's the first thing I look at. Then the second thing I look at is the functionality of the property and the condition of the property, right? So I want to know about the property as far as the condition. So me not knowing anything about construction, I would always hire an engineer before I would close on a property. On a commercial deal, you usually have a due diligence period. And so it's my suggestion that you get a inspection from a licensed engineer and let him go through the whole property and basically tell you what he thinks. I think that's an important part of what you want to do due diligence on a property, okay? In my determination of deciding if I'm going to buy a property, I want to think about the property, the way it's built now, and its adaptability to, various different tenants. Does the property make sense for, tenants in the area? So, you want to think about the adaptability of the property to tenants and probably the cost of bringing the property to that point where it could be used for a tenant. Okay, so that's an important thing. And a big thing in New York is parking. So you want to make sure that you have adequate parking. Just because there's high traffic counts or, a high foot traffic in the area, sometimes, it doesn't help you if people can't park their car. There's no parking garages or, adequate parking lots or parking spaces for them to park in. So that's a big issue, at least in New York. I would also think about the zoning, right? Just because you want to put a Starbucks in a spot, or you want to put, a bank, or you want to put a certain type of use there, the zoning may be restrictive and not allow that. These are all things that you want to think about when you're looking into the functionality of the property for you and the condition of the property. So then the next thing I think about is the leasing income potential, right? Or the present leasing situation I have there. So the things that I would look into is I would think about what the vacancy rates are in the area, and I'd want to get a good feeling of what the market rent is in the area. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, if there's an existing tenant there, I want to see that the rent that tenant is paying is not more than market rent, because if that tenant moves out, I'm going to be stuck having to rent for a lower rate, right? And so it's always good to have a tenant that's paying below market rent so that if they do move out, you have some upside. You want to do some research into the tenants that are there. What's their financial capacity to pay? You don't want to wind up buying a property with a tenant that, just can't pay you, and you then right away off the bat, you're starting with an eviction. You want to maybe see what their rent receipts look like, maybe see if they can get cancel checks, seeing that the rent was paid on time every month. Just look into the tenant so you know what you're getting. You don't want to be stuck with a bad tenant there, right? And then the last thing that I would consider, probably something you'll do in the due diligence period, is getting an environmental phase 1 study. You don't want to buy a property and find out that, you're having a headache there where you got to do some type of, cleanup in the property. There's asbestos in the property or some other hazardous material that you got to get rid of before you can do any construction, right? So a phase 1 is basically a historical look into the property and visual inspection by a company that does these. They do the inspection and they find either historical issues or they visually see something. They may recommend what's called the phase two, which then could be borings and samplings of like soil or whatever they think is a question. That's a good idea also sometimes, even if they don't see anything, but it's a type of property that lends itself to an environmental hazard like a gas station. These are the things I would think about: location, functionality, and condition of the property, leasing, income potential, and thoughts about the tenants that are there right now, and environmental. So these are not the only things to think about, but they're the 4 key things I immediately start thinking about when I'm looking at a property to buy. I appreciate you taking the time to watch today, and that if you have any ideas for other topics, I'd love to hear from you. You can comment below, and please like and share. Thanks very much.